What if I told you that the deepest part of your mind doesn't belong to you at all? Picture this. You're standing in a vast library, but this isn't any ordinary library. The books here contain no words. Instead, they hold dreams, symbols, and ancient memories that span thousands of years. Every human who has ever lived has contributed to this collection, and right now, as you listen to this, you're unconsciously browsing through it. This library exists in your mind. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, and he discovered that it connects all of humanity, living and dead, in ways that will fundamentally change how you see yourself and everyone around you. In the early 1900s, Carl Jung was working as a psychiatrist when he noticed something that shouldn't have been possible. Patients from completely different backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, people who had never met, were describing remarkably similar symbols and themes in their dreams and hallucinations. A farmer from rural Switzerland would dream of a great serpent. Halfway around the world, an educated businessman in New York would have the exact same symbolic dream. A child in Africa would draw spirals and mandalas without ever seeing them before, while simultaneously, elderly patients in European asylums were scratching identical patterns into the walls. Jung realized he was witnessing something profound, something that challenged everything psychologists thought they knew about the human mind. Jung discovered that our minds exist on 3 distinct levels, like floors in a mysterious building. The first floor, your conscious mind, is what you're aware of right now. Your thoughts, your immediate feelings, your current surroundings. This is the you that you think you know. The basement, your personal unconscious, contains your repressed memories, forgotten experiences, and buried emotions. Freud had mapped this territory, but Jung realized there was something deeper. Far beneath, Jung found a sub-basement that no one had ever suspected. The collective unconscious. This is the shared mental inheritance of all humanity. It's not formed by your personal experiences. It's older than you. Older than your parents, older than recorded history itself. And here's what's truly unsettling. This collective layer is actively shaping your thoughts, your dreams, your fears, and your desires right now in ways you've never realized. Within this collective unconscious, Jung discovered what he called archetypes. Universal patterns of behavior and symbolism that appear across all cultures and throughout all time. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're active psychological forces, ancient characters that play out their eternal dramas in your dreams, your relationships, and your life choices. The shadow lurks in every human psyche, the dark twin that contains everything you refuse to acknowledge about yourself. In dreams, it appears as the pursuer, the enemy, the monster, but the shadow isn't evil. It's the rejected parts of yourself that, when integrated, become a source of tremendous power and authenticity. The Anima and Animus represent the opposite gender within each person. For men, the Anima is the feminine aspect of their psyche, often appearing in dreams as a mysterious woman, a guide, or sometimes a seductress. For women, the Animus represents their inner masculine, appearing as a wise man, a warrior, or a teacher. These archetypes shape how we relate to others and seek wholeness within ourselves. The Great Mother appears in every culture, the nurturing, protective force that can also become devouring and possessive. She emerges in dreams as the caring grandmother, the earth goddess, or sometimes the witch. Your relationship with authority, security, and nurturing is influenced by this ancient pattern. The wise old man or woman represents deep wisdom and guidance. They appear in dreams and fantasies as mentors, shamans, or sage figures. When you have a moment of inexplicable insight or feel drawn to seek wisdom, this archetype is stirring within you. The trickster disrupts order and creates chaos, but also innovation and change. Every culture has this figure. The Greek Hermes, the Native American coyote, the African Anansi. When you feel rebellious, or when unexpected disruptions lead to growth, the trickster is at work. These aren't metaphors or quaint psychological theories. Jung found that these patterns appear with startling consistency across cultures that had no contact with each other. They emerge in our dreams, our stories, our art, and our deepest psychological struggles. The evidence for this shared mental layer is everywhere once you know how to look for it. Consider mythology. Why do cultures separated by oceans and centuries tell remarkably similar stories? The hero's journey, the flood myth, the dying and resurrected god. These patterns appear independently across human civilization. Jung realized these weren't coincidences or cultural borrowing. They were the collective unconscious expressing itself through human creativity. Look at children's drawings. Before they're influenced by culture or education, children worldwide draw the same symbols: spirals, crosses, circles divided into 4 parts. Simple human figures. They're accessing the same archetypal library that exists in every human mind. Even in our modern world, these patterns persist. Why are certain movie plots universally compelling? Why do we keep retelling stories about chosen ones, dark lords, wise mentors, and redemptive journeys? The collective unconscious provides the template that resonates across all human experience. This discovery carries unsettling implications. If Jung was right, then your thoughts aren't entirely your own. The fears that wake you at 3 a.m., the dreams that feel strangely familiar, the inexplicable attractions and repulsions you feel towards certain people. These might be echoes of humanity's shared psychological inheritance. Your ancestors' traumas, their triumphs, their deepest fears, and highest aspirations live on in your unconscious mind. The witch trials, the wars, the famines, the great loves and terrible losses of countless generations have left their mark on the collective psyche that you carry within you. This means that sometimes you're not just dealing with your own psychological issues. You're working through patterns that have been active in human consciousness for millennia, that relationship pattern you can't break, that creative vision that seems to come from nowhere, that spiritual longing you can't explain. They might be manifestations of something much larger than your personal experience. Jung discovered another phenomenon that suggests the collective unconscious operates beyond the boundaries of individual minds. Synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to violate the laws of cause and effect. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and they call. You dream of a specific symbol and encounter it repeatedly in your waking life. You're struggling with a problem, and the exact book you need falls off a shelf in front of you. Jung observed that these experiences often occur during times of psychological transformation, when archetypal content is becoming conscious. He theorized that the collective unconscious might exist outside normal space and time, creating connections between events that seem impossible according to our rational worldview. If this sounds mystical, consider that quantum physics has revealed similar non-local connections in the physical world. Perhaps the most powerful archetype Jung identified is the hero's journey, the pattern of leaving the familiar world, facing trials and transformation, and returning with wisdom to benefit others. This isn't just the plot of countless stories, it's the psychological template for human development. Right now, you might be living your own hero's journey without realizing it. The call to adventure might be that restless feeling that your current life isn't enough. The refusal of the call could be the fear and excuses that keep you from changing. The mentor appears when you're ready to learn. The trials and tribulations are the challenges that force you to discover strength you didn't know you had. The collective unconscious provides the map for this journey, but you must walk the path yourself. The ancient patterns guide you, but your individual experience makes the journey uniquely yours. Jung believed that psychological health and spiritual development depend on integrating unconscious content into consciousness, a process he called individuation. This means recognizing the archetypal forces at work in your life and consciously relating to them, rather than being unconsciously driven by them. When you acknowledge your shadow instead of projecting it onto others, you reclaim energy and become more authentic. When you understand the archetypal patterns in your relationships, you can respond more consciously instead of being trapped in ancient dramas. When you recognize the universal themes in your personal struggles, you connect with the broader human experience and find meaning in suffering. This integration doesn't happen through intellectual understanding alone. It requires what Jung called active imagination. Consciously engaging with the symbols, dreams, and fantasies that arise from the collective unconscious. Art, journaling, dream work, and creative expression become tools for this deep psychological work. Understanding Jung's discovery changes everything about how you see yourself and others. That difficult person in your life might be carrying archetypal projections. You might be seeing them as the terrible mother or the tyrant king rather than as a complex individual. Your own behavior patterns might make more sense when you recognize the ancient archetypes expressing themselves through you. Your dreams become more meaningful when you understand they're not just personal, random firings of neurons, but communications from the deeper layers of psyche that connect you to all humanity. Your creative impulses take on greater significance when you realize you're channeling patterns and symbols that have inspired human beings for thousands of years. Even your suffering becomes more bearable when you recognize it as part of universal human themes. You're not alone in your struggles because you're connected to every human who has ever faced similar challenges. Jung discovered that the collective unconscious operates in cycles. The same archetypal patterns that played out in ancient myths continue to manifest in modern life. The gods and goddesses of old haven't disappeared. They've gone underground, emerging in our dreams, our psychological complexes, our cultural movements, and our personal transformations. This means you're living multiple stories simultaneously: your personal narrative, your family's generational patterns, your culture's archetypal themes, and humanity's eternal myths. Understanding these layers gives you unprecedented insight into the forces shaping your life. The most profound realization Jung offers is this: by making the collective unconscious conscious, you don't just heal yourself. You contribute to the healing of the collective human psyche. Every person who integrates their shadow makes the world a little less driven by unconscious projections. Every individual who completes their own hero's journey makes it easier for others to find their path. Your personal psychological work isn't just personal. It's contributing to the evolution of human consciousness itself. The deepest part of your mind doesn't belong to you alone. It belongs to all of us. And by understanding this hidden layer of humanity, you gain access to the wisdom, strength, and healing power that has sustained our species through countless generations of joy and suffering. The library is always open. The question is, are you ready to explore what you might find there?